Hello! I'm back with another horror movie review. Once again, I'm doing a new movie. This time it is the direct-to-streaming Pet Sematary Bloodlines, a prequel to the remake of Pet Sematary from 2019. While the story of Judd dealing with a revived human in the past is a story told in the novel and referred to in the movies, but this time the story gets a little bit expanded. Much like the remake, this prequel also deviates from the novel, mostly to make it fit within the timeline provided by the remake. This movie had a lot going against it. A direct-to-streaming movie with little to no promotions that is a prequel to a popular story. However, I went into this movie on a whim when I stumbled across it. Despite everything standing against this movie, it wasn't too bad. Let's break it down. We begin with a brief recap about how the cursed burial grounds work. The movie is designed as if you are already familiar with the story of Pet Sematary. Thus, we rush through the exposition to start exploring some of the history of the town. Much like the book version, the story takes place in the early 70s, but unlike the book, we have a young Judd who appears to be in his early 20s to fit with his age in the 2019 version, rather than his age in the original 1983 story. He's getting ready to leave town with his girlfriend before stumbling across a sick-looking dog. They lead the dog back to town, and Judd's girlfriend gets attacked. This causes them to delay their move. They also run into Timmy, a war veteran, and Judd starts to have doubts about Timmy's sanity. More than that, the behavior of the older town folks pushes Judd to question things about his hometown. Meanwhile, the parents in the town starts to discuss what to do about Timmy and his father. From here, things get darker as Timmy becomes more aggressive. Judd continues his investigation and discovers the town founders wanted to hold back the evil in the forest. In proper horror fashion, we aren't given a complete explanation of the origin of the cursed lands. This leads Judd into confronting his father about the town's secrets, which leads to our very violent finale. The theme moves away from the original's theme of grief and moves towards a theme of responsibility. This ranges from the responsibility to loved ones, the responsibility of facing up to your mistakes, and the responsibility to defend humanity from greater evils. This comes in the form of Judd learning about the sacrifices made to protect the town, trying to protect his loved ones from Timmy, and finally, Timmy's father facing up to the mistakes he has made. The flashback to the founding of the town reinforces the theme by having the explorers make sacrifices to hold back the cursed lands. More than that, it ties into why Judd stayed in town and why he feels the way he does about the cursed lands in the original story. Anyone familiar with Judd's character already knows where the story goes. However, the additional characters and new theme make this a more compelling story than one might expect. There are a fair amount of characters in this story, both to add to body count and to show Judd's connection to the town. Sadly, many of the characters aren't around long enough to really get a focus. Sometimes this is due to body count, and other times it is just because the character is in the background for the majority of the movie. Thus, I will only focus on a few characters that constitute a focus. Judd Crandall. The younger Judd begins fairly naive to the evils around him due to his parents protecting him all these years. However, as the veil is lifted, he becomes a more hardened person who is ready to protect the town. The actor does a great job with this role, as Judd is the core of the story, and his journey is the key part of what makes this movie compelling. Manny Rivers. One of Judd's friends who doesn't believe anything weird is going on until it's too late. He comes off indecisive and unsure about his life, but he does make enough of an impression that this new character stands out. The Rivers family plays an important role in the story, and Manny's relationship with his sister Donna helps make Manny a much more likable character. His emotional reaction to what is going on in the town makes him far more sympathetic than Judd, and a necessary emotional component to move the story forward. Bill Bateman. Timmy's father, who clearly looks troubled, but his shift into realizing what he has unleashed makes him a compelling character. Sadly, he is a minor character who needed more screen time. It would have been nice to see more of Bill interacting with his son so we could see his terror as he realizes what his son has become. Timmy Bateman, the revived Vietnam vet who functions as the main killer of the story. While lacking in personality, he does make up for it in creepiness. The actor does a great job of making Timmy very unsettling and threatening. His strong performance helps increase the horror aspects of the story, and that is important when playing the killer in a horror movie. Overall, the acting is pretty good, and the cast does a good job showing the anxiety of their situation. The characters really help in adding to the overall atmosphere of the film and save what could have been a very flat story. Visually, this movie does a good job of setting the atmosphere. The cursed part of the woods looks very creepy, and there is a sense of dread surrounding everything. The effects that make the dog look sick and the gore are acceptable. However, the attacks aren't shot well, with some shaky cam and awkward cutaways. The bad camera work hurts the overall visual quality of Pet Sematary Bloodlines, but it does have atmosphere to spare. The audio is fine. The music feels like standard horror music. There are a few licensed songs, but they work to help build the 70s feeling of the world. However, some of the creepier moments are when the sound is turned off, such as a scene where Timmy starts dancing with a gal and the music stops, making their awkward dance look far more disturbing. The use of subtle sound effects to enhance the hospital scenes and the creepy moments in the woods really add to the atmosphere and creepy vibe of the movie. Even though this is the director's debut film, she did a great job making this streaming movie feel like a real horror movie, and despite likely budget limitations, it doesn't feel like a low-budget movie. When I discovered a prequel to Pet Sematary, I was incredulous at best. It seemed like there had been no advertising, and learning it was direct to Paramount Plus didn't fill me with hope for the movie. Despite my negative preconceptions, the movie turned out to be pretty good. The story was nothing impressive, but it didn't waste time getting to the point. Knowing about the flashback story already leads to the big question about how they were going to handle it. We get the revived Timmy and the dog right from the beginning, which pushes the creepy vibes forward without retreading ground that everyone knows about. The use of good visuals mixed with quality use of sound makes this movie better than the fairly cookie-cutter script. However, it would have been nice to have the camera work be a little tightened up in a few places. Overall, this is an enjoyable watch for fans of the remake, or anyone curious to see an adaptation of Judd's backstory. If you are a serious fan of the book, the changes to Judd and the differences in the story might not fit expectations. I'm not the biggest fan of changing how the Cursed Land revivals work, but for the sake of scary and keeping continuity with the remake, it is fine. At least the changes to the rules are better than those of Pet Sematary 2. The bottom line is, recommended. It's a decent scary story with some good acting and great atmosphere, but nothing that helps it rise above being a prequel to a remake that not everyone liked. If you're looking for more Pet Sematary stories, then this is worth the watch. Otherwise, there are plenty of other ways to get a Stephen King fix for Halloween. Thank you for watching, and thank you for bearing with me as I'm recording this while I have a cold. I'm going to try to get one more scary movie review out before the end of the month. Until next time, enjoy some scary movies, and I'll see you at the Haunted Tavern.